Hi, Lonnie Mackley here. I just want to talk to you a little bit today about the last day Josephs. And what I mean by that is that we're living in the last days, and if you read in the Bible in Genesis about Joseph, Joseph was somebody that God used in a great way to help people during his time to survive a really terrible, difficult time, a famine in Egypt and all around the Palestinian area. And so God used Joseph in a mighty way, and God is going to raise up last days Josephs to help the many people survive the tough days that are already setting in and that are going to get even tougher ahead. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about that. If you're one of these Josephs that God is going to raise up in these last days, or if you're one of these people that need to run to a Joseph in the last days, you'll need to know about this, because it can mean life or death, just like it was for Joseph's family. But Joseph, of course, was the son of Jacob, and he had 9 brothers. And one thing about Joseph is that God had a special calling on his life. God may have a very special calling on your life, like with Joseph. And Joseph was given promises in a dream when he was young that one day God would raise him up, and that even his own family would need him at a certain time in his life. And he shared that dream. He's kind of the favorite of his father, which made his brothers very jealous. And one day his brothers threw him into a pit and sold him, and Joseph was made a slave. And so Joseph, when he was younger, was very misunderstood and rejected. That may be a hallmark of your life if you're one of the Josephs. And another thing was he was sold out by those closest to him. God doesn't let these Joseph's kind of people get too close to too many people growing up, because God wants you to grow close to Him and to need Him. So what He'll do is kind of just really limit how close people are allowed to get to you. So that may be another reason. You don't have to feel like you're such a loser if God has kept a lot of people that you love dearly kind of at arm's length. It's because God has wanted to drive you to Him so that you could build a relationship with Him. And Joseph was sold as a slave to a man named Potiphar, and he was taking care of his whole house, and everything looked like it was going good. And Joseph's natural gift of being an administrator was working really well, but Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him, and so Joseph had to run out of the house naked because she grabbed a hold of his robe, and he kind of ran out of it, and so she accused him of rape to save a disgrace, and he was thrown into prison. He was thrown into Pharaoh's prison as a convicted rapist. So another hallmark is that Joseph went through like one failure, what looked like one failure after another. But during this time, God was training him in his gift. You may be being secretly trained in your gift, whatever it may be in these last days. Maybe it's pastoring young people, maybe it's ministering funds, maybe it's getting ready to run a big ministry home. Whatever it is, God has been secretly training you in these last days, believe it or not. And you may be a manager at McDonald's, and your real ministry that you're being trained for is to be a leader of youth or a leader of people. And so that's how God uses it, just like He did at Potiphar's. And even in prison, while Joseph was in prison, that same gift was used, and Joseph was trusted to take care of all of the prison needs, just the same gift, just a different setting. And so Joseph stayed there. He stayed faithful to God, and but it said the vision tested Joseph. Like it was hard. Like there was many times during Joseph's life he didn't understand. It was very difficult, and there was a lot of like false starts where Joseph thought that he would get out, and he didn't. It was like the butcher and the baker in prison. They were both got in trouble with Pharaoh, were sent down there, and so Joseph used his prophetic gift of hearing from God to give them messages from God about what would happen in the future, and they came true. And so Joseph thought for sure that this was his time, he'd get out, but they forgot about him until God's timing came into effect. And you may feel like you're waiting forever for this promise that God's given you to come true, but God has a day for you. Just like He did with Joseph, and somebody's going to remember you that you helped, and it's going to help to propel you to the place of leadership that God wants to place you in to help people. And when Pharaoh had a dream that he couldn't understand about 7 fat cows, 7 lean cows, nobody could help him. Nobody could interpret it. All of his sorcerers and all of these other people couldn't interpret it. But somebody that Joseph had helped, like I said, remembered Joseph and told Pharaoh that Joseph could interpret dreams. And so they called for Joseph. It was a very suddenly kind of thing, and it might be this way for you. And that the people there'll be a great need for the people, just like the economic downturn and the tribulation that's coming. There's a great need that's coming, and they're going to look to you for God's help and for God's understanding. And that's what they did with Joseph. And so Joseph explained the vision and then told them, you need to get somebody to help you to get ready for this famine, this terrible famine that's coming. And so Pharaoh just said, well, why not you? And that's what will happen, is all of a sudden your gift will be recognized, and you'll be catapulted into a place of greater leadership, meant to help many to survive during this really hard time that's starting to come upon the world. And so that's what happened to Joseph. And the whole world right now is falling apart. They're falling into a spiritual, financial famine, and people are going to look to you. And it was actually Joseph's gift, supernatural, that put Joseph into his place of leadership. And it'll be the supernatural that places you into the place of leadership in the last days. It won't be money. It won't be who you know. It'll be God himself through the gift that he's operated through you that will put you in the place of leadership that you need to be in. Now, once Joseph did his, got things, ready in Egypt, they stored up grains in all of these grain houses and everything else. The need and the famine began to set in. And the need and the famine is going to sit in a lot of different places all over the world at the same time. And so everybody's going to be looking for grain, and that's what Joseph stored up. And they're going to be looking for financial help. They're going to be looking for spiritual help. And Joseph had it, and you're going to have it. God's going to bless you in these last days. He's going to give you these things in abundance to manage, just like Joseph. And even Joseph's family was restored to him because of their need. And God sent Joseph's family to Egypt to get grain. And through a process of God revealing Joseph to them, they were restored. And the same people that have rejected you and misunderstood you through your life, God is going to allow them to suddenly understand you. God's going to reveal who you really are in the kingdom to them. And there will be a great reconciliation, and you'll be able to take care of your family in the last days. There's going to be a lot of ministry homes, last days ministry homes that are created out of the financial blessing that God gives all these Josephs. And God has riches hidden all over the place to give to the people that he can trust to manage them, and that's what he's going to do to you. And Joseph just bought up all the land with the grain that he had, and the spiritual resources, the financial resources are meant to buy up the land, so to speak, of the souls of men for God. God is like Pharaoh, and your job is to get into your position and to reap the harvest of these last days, to preach the gospel, to get these ministry homes together, allow the people to come in that are supposed to come into your ministry homes, and lead them to Jesus Christ and help them to survive. And Joseph met their needs, not their greeds. It's not your job to pay off people's bills, or Joseph didn't give them chariots or anything else. He gave them what they really needed, which was food. So meet their basic needs, preach the gospel, and be directed by God. It's going to be a tough time. Don't waste anything. Live by constant obedience to God. Understand that there's a tribulation coming, a terrible time upon the earth for everyone. And you're going to have to use a lot of wisdom on who to help and who not to help, because there'll be a lot more people that you can't help than you do. Remember also that Jesus Christ is coming soon, so no matter how bad it gets, that Jesus will return soon. And whether you're a Christian or not Christian, you need to get your life ready and let God help you. So bless you, my friend. I hope this has helped you. There's a group called Revival Prophetic Wilderness. You can type it in Lonnie Mackley, find it on the internet, and there's other groups that can help you too. So bless you, my friend. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.